All right, it's Jared Moore again, and welcome back to Meet the Candidate for the MCN 2021 National Council Seat B elections. Today's candidate is John Killingsworth. He is a candidate for the Tulsa District Seat B. And without further ado, Mr. Killingsworth, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running in this race.
You bet. The main thing really is to, I'll start with myself. First of all, I've got some core, things that I believe in, and really faith is the main thing. So I am a believer and follower of Jesus Christ. So my faith is very important to me. Secondly would be family. I've got a wife of almost 25 years. It's be 25 years here in December. Her name is Lisa. Son, who is 22 years old. He is currently attending theological seminary. And a daughter who's 19. She's a senior at Jenks High School. She is disabled, so we're actually, as 19, we're official guardians of her. Regarding my Mvskoke Creek Nation roots, really it ties into Tiger Mountain, which is near Henrietta, Oklahoma, of course. And so my parents are John and Linda Killingsworth. I have two sisters. One of them's deceased, Carrie, and then Robin. And today's actually her birthday, so happy birthday to her. But my grandparents are Brian and Naomi Riley Killingsworth, my paternal grandparents, and my great-grandparents were Bunny and Lily Tiger Riley. So my tribal town is Tukabachi, and I've heard it pronounced several ways, but then my clan is Raccoon. Basically, I'm a business guy, so I've been working in the oil and gas industry for the last 27 years, and done pretty well in that. But I've come to a point where I'm looking for some opportunities to serve, and the tribe is one of those areas I'd like to serve in. So that's basically why I'm running. I do believe there's some things that I can add, basically with my business experience, to help the tribe thrive. So that's it in a nutshell there.
Okay. Well, and I want to remind everybody that if you want to ask any questions of Mr. Killingsworth, you can post them in the YouTube chat, and we'll jump right on that. But I'm going to go ahead and dive in here. The incumbent in your race is Lucian Tiger III. Could you kind of compare and contrast yourself with him, or why would somebody who was going to vote for him vote for you instead?
To be honest, I'm not. I'm just not getting to know the candidates, a lot of them. So through some of the forums, through some of the videos that I've seen, through some of the things I've read. But what I have seen is that actually Lucian does have some business experience, but I don't really know much about him. What I would say is that I'm bringing a lot of corporate, private and public company experience. Whether it was project management, cost controls, merger acquisition, business development, so relationship building. I've done quite a few things. So again, I'm pretty diversified myself. And when I've looked at all of the council members across the board, I just believe that I would be an asset and could help take the tribe to the next level. So.
Okay. What's your opinion on the tribe's COVID response? Has it been too much, too little? Do you foresee that the tribe is going to have to do more financial help for citizens in the future? What's your position on that?
I think that's a tough one because we've never dealt with something like this before. It's a moving target. I commend the tribe because I think they have done well given the circumstances. Could they do more? I've been out and I've met a lot of tribal citizens in the forums that I did attend, and I do know just from their comments that they would appreciate more services. But to what extent, I'm not sure of the budget that we have, right? What the other funds that we have and what we have left over to allocate to the tribal members. I just don't have those details, but certainly if there's a need there, then I think it should be met if we can afford it. Right. So again, if I tie that back into what I'm wanting to do with my business experience and help to really diversify our income streams, I'm hoping to provide more of those types of services. So. Okay.
We've seen the Oklahoma State AG has launched an attack on the reservation status for the tribe, and his stated objective is to have the Supreme Court ruling overturned and Oklahoma to retake jurisdiction there. What's your opinion on that? And do you have any ideas as a seated councilman, legislation that you could bring to help combat that?
Yeah, it's interesting times there, right? So, totally agree with the original ruling, and don't believe, of course, it should be overturned. I believe we've got to really take a firm stance here, and that's going to probably start with countering some of the state of Oklahoma's done with some of their PR tactics. We've got to counter that. We've got to have our own PR attack as well, right? Strategy to counter those things. But I would say, as far as legislation, right? So we need to, of course, we've got to address some resources that, a deficiency of resources. Some of the things that the state of Oklahoma has actually made a bigger deal of than really is. But I would say that the main thing that really comes to mind is I think there's a huge issue regarding taxation, and I think we need to go to the state of Oklahoma and draw up some legislation there, and make sure we're addressing that, right? And taxation covers a broad number of things. But when you look at what's happened, right, and this is a reservation that's never been disestablished. There's some things there, and I'm a big believer that maybe injustices in the past can be made right, in the future here, and I think that's what's coming to pass right now. So it's a great opportunity for the tribe, and we should not make any hasty decisions. And again, I think what I've seen from our leadership also is they're not doing that, right? So they're addressing it as it comes in. But in terms of the legislation, I think we've got to be aggressive. So.
Okay. Yeah, I want to dig in on that point just a little bit too, because there seems to be, and this is just from me overhearing conversations councilmen have and possible future legislation that could come up. There seems to be two theories on how this is going to work with as far as the taxation on the civil side. And I wanted to see what your opinion on it is,
Sure.
Because the two factions are kind of that the tribe needs to take over all the taxation, and if needs be, needs to also take over some of the municipal services and those types of things within the reservation. Or the other direction is that we do some type of compact with the localities or the state to say, hey, we're going to split taxes with you, 50-50 or whatever that agreement would be. Or maybe there's some other idea that you might have, how should that be handled, do you think?
Great question. I don't know that can be answered today, right? I think that takes more than one person's opinion for one thing, right? That's why you have council members, right? So we come together and collaborate and come up with the best options and then present those, right? Of course, we're going to present the ones that we think are the highest priority, right? But as in any decision, right? Especially when you're dealing with multiple parties, you're going to have to compromise. We know that's going to happen, but we do need to take some time and make sure we're getting the input we need from council members, from executive leadership, and give those things some thought. So again, you just can't come up with an answer and just out of thin air, right? So,
right.
But definitely we've got to, again, not make hasty decisions, build our case, if you will, weigh those options, and then put forth what we believe would be fair. Okay.
What about individual taxes, though? Because this has also been an issue since the decision is, some citizens saying, I'm not going to pay state taxes anymore. And in fact, there's challenges going up through the review system and the court system in the state of Oklahoma. What's your opinion on that?
I tend to agree with those, actually. So, but again, that needs to be put down as some options, things that we feel like are priorities to the tribal members, and we would make our presentation or our case, if you will, probably most likely a case to the state. So certainly, again, this has changed everything, right? And I say that because we know, again, injustices were happened in the past, and this is still a reservation. So we need to make sure we're putting some thought into it, make sure that we come up with the right approach.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you think is a very important part for your campaign you'd like to mention?
Well, I would like to touch on kind of my platform, right? And there's 4 points to it. Again, it goes back to my business experience. I do believe, and I would love to provide more services to our tribal members, but that starts with diversifying our income streams, which we're heavily reliant on gaming income right now. I think we saw firsthand in the year 2020, of course, as a lot of people did, businesses were shut down, right? So that had a huge impact on this. it does impact our budget. It does impact the types of services and that we can provide to our tribal members. So diversifying our income streams and making sure that, whatever that target might be, 10 years from now, can we achieve the goal of having non-gaming income exceed gaming income? I mean, I think that's achievable. And it sounds probably far-fetched right now, but, there's other tribes that have put into play, although their casino operations are good, they've diversified a little bit where they're not going to they've mitigated some risk when things like a pandemic occur. And we just need to make sure we're taking advantage of some of the opportunities that are provided to us as a sovereign nation and diversify our businesses, right? So basically, if we do that, and again, some of the comments I'm hearing from some of the citizens are they would like, more healthcare services. Education is a priority. Social services, right? Whether it's our senior tribal members or children, right? The ones that are vulnerable. We want to provide more services if we can, right? The other thing that would, I believe, help as we diversify our income stream is rural economic development. And I hear that a lot of time as well, that people want to see that. There's not enough job opportunities. So if we purchase viable businesses, right, we can either expand or relocate manufacturing production type facilities to those rural areas of Mvskoke Creek Nation. Then that will provide some opportunities, employment opportunities. And I guess the fourth thing, which really is probably more of a touchy-feely thing, but I believe is just as important. I believe that the Creek Nation as a whole has done well at retaining our culture and language. If you look at some of the other tribes that I didn't mention them, but they're doing well business-wise, but they've probably lost a little bit of their culture and language, and I believe we need to put an emphasis on that. I've been pretty impressed with some of the candidates and council members that are already fluent in the language. That would be a goal of mine as well. But I believe as a tribe, we need to have a goal set. And whatever that is, again, 10 years, let's just use that number. Can we have 75% of our adult Creek Nation citizens fluent in the language? I think it's achievable, but you have to start somewhere. You've got to set targets and goals, if you will, and try to achieve those. If we get the adults speaking the language, then it's a lot easier for the kiddos, right? They're gonna come along, and it's gonna be natural to them. But can you imagine if we, 10 years from now, if the tribal newspaper is written in our native language, and then also if the council meetings were held in native language. So, again, I just think we got to put an emphasis on something like that. I would hate to lose that, because I think those are the things we should hold dear to us. So,
one of the things we see a lot, especially in our chat, and I'm just going to touch on the cultural issue you were just talking about. And because this is something that you hear a lot from candidates, is exactly that there needs to be more emphasis put on the culture, etc. Do you have any concrete legislative plans in that regards, or what do you think we need to do to achieve that 10-year mark of everything's in the language?
So, again, probably not the details you want to hear, and I would have to dig in to see what's in place, right? Because quite honestly, I am being educated as I go through this process. I'm not a politician. I'm just now getting involved. So I've been learning a lot. But what I would say is it's going to be critical to fund those things and make sure we've got the funding. Again, we've got to go back and make sure that we're having more revenue, more income, right? That we can fund some of these objectives. But you look at the programs we have in place. Are they working? Are they meeting the key performance indicators that we need? Are we making progress, right? If not, then they do need to be revamped. We need to establish some other things. I'm not an expert in that, and I'm not an educator either, but I do think we incorporate those types of folks to make sure we've got collaboration and buy-in from everyone. Again, this should be the voice of the people, and that's what, again, as a council member, we should be as well. People are going to vote us in from our experience, our leadership, our morals, our ethics, those types of things. But again, we want to be the voice of the tribe. So I think we've got to get the right professionals to collaborate and come up with those types of programs. But I've seen that we've got the university, and I've seen that I can go get a certificate in language. That's awesome. I'm going to do some more research on that myself, because as an individual, I've got to take accountability for myself, and I'm willing to do that. And that's something I'm going to look into myself. But if I become part of the council, then definitely that will be on my agenda to see what we can make happen.
On the rural economic development front, and I also want to mention, anybody watching have any questions, pop them into the chat. We'll ask them of Mr. Killingsworth. We've seen over the past really 50 years, all of the rural towns, like Mulgee is a good example of population reduction, people moving out of the rural areas into the cities. And over those decades, the tribe has tried several different, or really many different, rural economic development projects. Do you have a project or something in mind for if you were elected that you would propose that maybe the tribe hasn't done before? Like, could you give me any idea of like what your development would consist of?
Sure. I mean, I'll try to give you something. Probably it's going to be in more general, but I will say that I don't have a lot of knowledge about what the tribe has tried in the past, right? You come in, you look at things, what is going on, and you assess those things. What I do have is, I think as I mentioned before, you're going to look at successful businesses right now. We are in a position as a sovereign nation that we have opportunities to purchase these businesses, right, and to take advantage of some of the government gives us advantages. We're just not taking advantage of them. So whether it's government contracts or whatever, but in terms of trying to increase our employment and opportunities for the rural economic development, you look at the businesses, you look at what they can bring. Certainly you're not going to purchase something that can't, and a lot of them won't check all the boxes. So again, diversification is the key, but if one of the boxes we want to check is to improve our employment opportunities in rural areas, then that we'll address that when we're reviewing that business and doing the analysis. Is this business we want to purchase? So no specific project, no specific business in mind, but what comes to mind is manufacturing, production, things that again, some of these rural areas, maybe they don't have a college degree. Again, those aren't necessary, but maybe they have the aptitude and the experience to help with manufacturing and production. Again, all those. I think you can use all skill sets when it comes to whether it's administrative or executive administrative, and then the labor, right, to actually manufacture. So
absolutely. Well, and I wanted to throw a quick plug in there too, and this for you too, Mr. Killingsworth. If you're interested, we have a playlist on our YouTube channel called From the Vault that has kind of mini documentaries through the years, and there are a lot of them on economic development through the 80s and all the way up into the 90s, I think. So there are 3 or 4 different videos on there that they touch on some of the economic projects that the tribe's done. For instance, the tribe has they were going to open a store here in the 80s, a grocery store. There has been there was a cattle operation for a while, and so on and so forth. There was even at one time going to be a cultural theme park near the Sand Springs area, I think in the 90s. So there's different things on there if you want to go check it out. And it also has stuff about the history of the tribe and other things, all the way up. And this is all stuff that was produced by the tribe. So,
sure.
But that.
Let me just touch on that, Jared. So,
sure.
Again, things that have done in the past, certainly we can look at them and see if maybe it's viable now. I'm not sure, but what I would say is, again, my experience is, working for different corporations is helping them grow, right? Helping them increase revenue, and have been able to do that by either organic growth internally, or going out and purchasing a company and making them more efficient, right, more effective, expanding them. And so I see it no different than doing that for the tribe. Again, I think there's advantages right now that the tribe has. We just need to come up with the right strategy and the right approach. But I'm not seeing that right now. I mean, I think we need, if you look at One Fire and if you look at MBE or MMBE right now, I think you'd be hard pressed to see what they produce for us, right? There's not transparency there either. So there's a better way. And if we're holding ourselves accountable, the tribe, that is, if we're looking at ourselves and are we hitting the KPIs, the key performance indicators, are we performing? And I think right now, I don't see that. So that's one of my strengths. Again, that's what I bring to the table. So.
Well, and as a citizen, you're talking about One Fire and MMBE, and
right.
Are they delivering? Are those things that you would look at scrapping them or revamping them? What needs to change with those particular entities from your standpoint, that to make them more viable?
It's going to sound like I'm putting this off, but again, you don't make rash decisions. I can't. Yeah, I would have to dig in and find out what exactly is the issue there, right? How have we performed over the last, however many years they've been going? So, I don't believe I've heard of a lot of checks being written back to the tribe, though. So that's an issue. So in the corporate world, that's an issue, right? Someone would be fired. We've closed the business or whatever. You got to make the tough decisions, though. And all I've seen is that they just continue to go on. And again, I haven't heard anything about it. I mean, have you guys reported anything big from either one of those organizations?
Well, that's why I was asking about your mention the transparency, because that's a problem that, right, in my opinion, as a citizen and a news gatherer too, is the transparency of those organizations, how much money is coming in, how much money is coming out, right, and where is the citizens' money being spent in the best interest of the citizens and those type of things, because we don't get a lot of that information, and on other notes too. For instance, as a citizen, I'll ask you, because I don't know the answer to this question either, but as a citizen, do you have any idea how much money the casinos make in a year, a month?
I have heard those numbers before, and typically I'm a numbers person. It was a pretty large number, but I know we're heavily reliant on that, right? And I don't like that aspect of it. But have the casinos been good? Yes, it's changed everything for the tribe, right? But I think it's a pretty large number.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but as citizens, we ought to know exactly how much. Shouldn't we know exactly how much money is coming in on that front every month or year, every quarter? We have to kind of take the word of the casino, whoever, for those figures. There's not really an independent accounting of it, is my point. So it's that.
So totally agree.
Go ahead.
Every tribal member should be able to, once the books have been audited, then we should be able to view those, right? I mean, really, it's the money of the people. So,
just out of curiosity, what's your position on per capita distribution of the money?
Interesting. I mean, you have to fulfill obligations for other things, right? But I do hear about other tribes that, tribal members are getting more money. Certainly, again, we want to make sure we're addressing the folks that are struggling. I mean, that's, as human beings, that should be our priority, right? But it's hard to put a number on that until you get in and you understand the budget, right? How much is coming in, as you mentioned, right? How much is coming in? How much is going out? Do we need to revise that in any way, shape, or form? You always want to cut back where you can, right? We always want to tighten the belt where we can, become more efficient. But without knowing those numbers, it'd be hard to answer that question.
Well, philosophically, we can look at two forms of government rights. The form that we're operating with now is the casino money or any of our ventures. The revenue from that comes into the government, and the government provides services to citizens, right? That's what we're operating under now.
Right.
Whereas you could have a radically different government that is reduced, right? And then you set up criteria for some type of per capita distribution, whatever that would be. And then you don't have to focus so much on the services side, because all of the citizens or the citizens that meet that criteria would receive their money every month. Philosophically, which way do you lean?
I would want both. So again, increase your income, right? How are you going to do that, though? You got to come up with that strategy. Right. So, I mean, I don't think you go either way, because I do love what we're doing for a lot of people. I think we've made a lot of progress in for sure in healthcare. I mean, the facilities we're doing, the services we can provide. I honestly have to dig in a little bit more and figure out, are we addressing the issues that we need to from an educational and social services perspective?
Right.
But I do believe that those should be our priorities, right? So just again, as a human being, we should be taking care of each other. And if the tribe has the means to do that, then that should be our priority. No individual should become more important than the tribe, right? The family. So to say a per capita thing, I would love to be able to do that, to address some of the other issues. But I think the priorities we've got pretty well laid out, and I believe that should continue. So
okay. We've had a question pop up here. I'm going to
Okay.
read it verbatim from the chat. Do
Right.
you believe the city of Tulsa and Tulsa County adequately respects us as equal or even superior jurisdictional authorities and as community partners?
Good question. I mean, we know the state of Oklahoma doesn't, right? At least with the current administration and what we're hearing from those guys. With the city of Tulsa and the county, I don't know that I've got a great feel for that. My gut feeling is probably not, uh, because I think as we all know, humans, there's some biases that are kind of in us as humans, right? So, and we're definitely a minority, right? But I would say that I would have to, get in and understand those relationships and build a relationship with some of those folks, because it should be mutual respect. But my guess would be we're probably not mutually respected right now.
Okay. We've got about 5 more minutes, and I
Okay.
want to tell everybody in the chat, go ahead and pop in any questions that you have for Mr. Killingsworth. We were talking about earlier on the economic front. You were saying there's
Right.
advantages that the tribe has that the federal government allows us. Could you kind of touch on some of those advantages?
Right. I mean, it doesn't take much to look around and see what the Chickasaws are doing, what the Choctaws are doing, what the Cherokees are doing. They've been very successful in establishing government type entities where they can basically, I mean, believe it or not, there are some contracts that the government will just hand over to you, right? Because of our sovereignty and our status. So there are some advantages in terms of, you've got to create the right business umbrella to take advantage of some of these. So I think from an organizational perspective, we've got to make sure we've got that organization in place and put our business strategy together and do that accordingly. But just in terms of the government, right? I don't see us taking advantage of that. I don't think you'd see that in the numbers and the money coming, the income, like those other tribes I mentioned. So I think if you look at their revenue, their income compared to ours, theirs is much higher. So.
Okay. So the advantages would be mainly like government contracts. We need to, from your standpoint, you're saying the tribe could increase its government contracts, and that would be a significant source of revenue. Is that?
Yes, that's one. There
Okay.
are some ways to purchase some of these other businesses that are, again, maybe I would call it creative financing, but again, it's taking advantage of our sovereign rights and how we can organize things. So, it's a business thing. Not that everyone would understand, but those are details that we could go on for. We probably need a little longer. But
Yeah, we got about 3 more minutes, but I don't have any more. I don't have any questions right now in the chat. But some of these businesses, like, is there any businesses that you think the tribe would target to purchase, like that you think would be good buys for the tribe?
I mean, there's services, again, if we're looking at from utilizing the advantages for the government contracting, there are services. You go out and you look at where they're spending money. Look at those services. They're all over. There's staffing. There's IT. It's a vast amount of services. Trust me. Supplies. I mean, the government is the best client you could have. So I don't know why we wouldn't want to do more business with the federal government. But it really covers. You'd be surprised, I guess. So if you take a look at the budget of the federal government and their procurement, what they actually buy and purchase, there's lots of opportunities out there. So I do want to say this before we go, though.
Sure.
I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone, because not a lot of people are familiar with me. I haven't been involved. I'm not a politician. I haven't been involved with the tribe that much. I do have a passion for serving people. I think I've got a pretty good head on my shoulders, and really it is based on a lot of my business experience. But my focus would be to increase our non-gaming income and try to provide more services, money, however you want to frame that up,
Okay.
to the citizens. So.
We had a question pop up here, and I will say to T.Y. Pearl, the commenter, that we kind of talked about this earlier in the stream. If you're just tuning in late, so you can rewind and check it out. But I'm going to go ahead and ask your question anyway. It's kind of, he's doing an emoji question. So this is what the question is. It says, MMBE and One Fire, thumbs up or thumbs down?
I don't believe they performed to our expectations. So I would say a thumbs down.
Okay,
Right, so-
there we go. And I'm going to leave it at that. We're at 6:29, and
Okay.
is there anything else you'd like to touch on before we sign out? And I do want to say thanks for participating in this, and it's really good that all the citizens get to meet you and learn about your candidacy and everything else. And if you make it past the primary stage here in September, we're going to try to organize a forum with both of the candidates between that September election and the November election to kind of have a roundtable discussion about some of the issues going into the November election. So if you make it through there, we'll probably be reaching out to you to try to schedule that. And anything else that you'd like to touch on?
You bet. No, I would. Hopefully, I'm in that position, so I would look forward to that opportunity as well. And I'm sure I'll learn a lot more between now and then. So.
All right, great. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody thanks everybody for tuning in today. And we will have 2 more candidates next week on Monday and Tuesday. And I think we're going to try to have some type of live stream on the Free Press Amendment, maybe on Friday. We're in the organizational stages on that, so we haven't got all the technical details worked out. But look for something maybe on Friday on the amendment that will also be on the ballot. So with that being said, Mado for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, Jerry. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.